Hello, arty peoples, and welcome to another episode of Jerry's Live. My name is Emmy Klein, and I am your host this evening. And today we are going to make a big mess, and I'm so excited. It's going to be really fun. So this is going to be an acrylic pouring painting kind of a show, but not in the sense of doing the kind of thing that I've seen a lot, where you pour a bunch of it into a cup and then you flip it over, and make this beautiful kind of more abstract kind of different colors melting into one another. That's not what we're doing. We're going to be doing something a little bit more representational and painting in some wildflowers, just like this. So I am very, very excited to show you guys this process. But before we jump into that, though, if you are interested in checking out any of the materials I'm going over today, make sure to go to the website JerrysArtarama.com and type in today's class code, which is JL254. So 254 in the search bar, and that should bring up the teacher's cart that has all of the items that I'm going to be using in it. So before I officially jump into how to do all of this, I actually really wanted to show you. I've been doing a lot of them. A lot of them. This is it's my size. This is a huge painting. So I wanted to kind of show you how to get this technique where your colors are still a pour painting and they're still moving around, and it's kind of almost left to chance as to what they're going to do, but there's still a little bit more control over it. Now the key to this process is really the medium. I have the golden pouring, this is the color pouring medium gloss. It also comes in matte if that's your preference, if you want to have a matte finish instead of gloss. Around here, we personally love glossy, so we just got glossy. But I will say I have done this technique with other mediums, other brands of pouring mediums. And the only other one that I have found gives me this finished result is the Lucas. Now, the reason why I'm not using Lucas, because you guys will notice I'm having a lot of Lucas acrylics on my table here. And you would think, why don't you just use the Lucas medium? It is great, and I would say, if you have it, use it. But the reason why I'm actually going to be going with golden is because the Lucas doesn't exactly self-level as well as the golden. So just be aware of that. I actually do have, I wasn't joking, I have a couple of these. This is a totally different one. This one I actually did do with the Lucas medium. So if I can, I don't know if you guys can see that. Maybe actually, I'll do an up close once I get everything out of the way on the table here. But just up here, and I'll do an up close for you, there's a little bit of where you can see when I put the first initial layer down, and you'll see how I do that as well. You can see that where I swiped my hand like this, you can see my finger marks. That did not self-level down as much as the golden would do. The other thing with the Lucas, if you are going to use that, because that can be adjusted, I just wasn't paying attention to it. But the Lucas does require a very, you have to be paying attention to the ratio. So Lucas is a 3-to-1 ratio where you have 3 parts of the pouring medium, and I'm pointing to it, it's right off camera, that's why I'm pointing, sorry. So 3 parts of the Lucas medium to 1 part paint. Now the golden, I actually just double checked, this is 10 parts of the pouring medium to 1 part paint, but not gonna lie, I eyeball it completely, and I have not had any issues. This is like my beginner friendly foolproof medium right here, so that's why I wanted to use it today. But just be aware that if you do have any other pouring mediums that are not these 2 brands, I cannot guarantee you that you're going to have this result, because I have tested this with Liquitex, and Liquitex tends to slide a lot more, which is great if that's what you're going for. But if you're going for something a little bit more representational like this, and you want it to move but not move as much, Liquitex moves a little too much. So that might be not the perfect medium for this process. The other thing I'm going to be using, which is a lifesaver, let me tell you, is our acrylic pouring painting accessories kit. This has all of the cups that you'll see in here. It also has pipettes and these little popsicle stir sticks that I have in each cup over here as well. It also does come with silicone spray. Great if you're gonna do the like pour cup technique. I'm not using the silicone at all in this technique. So it is an option. And if you guys want to like, you know, experiment with that, please feel free to do that and let me know how that works. Cause I would love to see kind of how this looks with the silicone spray in there. I have not tested that out myself. So that's essentially what I have on my table here. And I also have one last color to mix up that I wanted to show you. Do we have any questions so far? Because I jumped right into it. So I think it's gonna be pretty good. Let me actually mix up this color, this last color, so you guys can see how I do that. Be aware though that I'm starting off with white, so I have a lot more white over here in my cups, as well as green, and you'll see why. But all the other colors that I have, I really don't need that much. I only have just a little bit in each cup, just because I'm gonna be squeezing it out in a controlled manner and I don't need that much. So waste not, want not. So since I'm doing a larger painting, I have the gallon. Like we do pour paintings all around the studio all of the time. So we go with the big boys. Let's do, I've been putting about somewhere between 30 and 50 milliliters. This is about 50 milliliters. Yes.
You mentioned some of the different pouring mediums available. Brian is asking what your thoughts are on using Flowral.
Flowral with this process, I don't think that's gonna work. I think Flowral is gonna get you a little bit too fluid. Because the idea is, and this is similar to, I think like the string medium, where it kind of, you can string it and it kind of holds itself together. That would work really well with this as well. There are so many mediums out there. This is an experimental process that I've just started playing with, and I want to inspire you guys to try this out. So I don't have all of the answers for all the different mediums with this particular process, but Flowral gets you pretty fluid. So I don't think that's gonna work. So that's similar to like Liquitex, like it's just a little too much movement. So like I said, I have about 50 milliliters of the medium in this cup. Now I add paint to this like I'm seasoning my laundry, just until my heart tells me it's good. That sounds good. I'm not measuring very well. Again, this is like my pouring medium that is just foolproof. Now, let's go to the side camera here because I want to show you how I stir. So I actually stir, let me hold it like this so you guys can see. I whip this around kind of like I'm making scrambled eggs. So I'm essentially drawing ovals in my cup. And if I have just a little bit of medium in the cup, I kind of tilt it just a little bit, so just like you're making scrambled eggs. You guys didn't know this was also a cooking show, did you?
I thought you were going to fold in the cheese.
Oh, that would be weird. But just make sure you don't eat your art supplies though, before I.
Don't eat the paint.
Don't eat the paint. Now, I wanted to make sure you guys got this as well. If you see the bottom here has a little bit of medium on it and you can see it in the corners, that's not gonna really, hurt you. Just make sure that you're scraping the outside part of that cup with the edge of your popsicle stir stick and just get it as incorporated as possible. Now, the more you have in here, just like I have in my cup of white and the cup of green, clearly don't go crazy with stirring it like I was here, and you don't want to tilt this, but you still want to draw those big circles, and that's going to get your paint and medium moving around as best as possible to get it to really incorporate. But just slow and steady. Now, the other fun thing that I have noticed with this is that the medium is not going to dry very fast on you. This is going to be wet for, well, I mean, in the ones that I've done, they've been wet for about 2 days. So this in a cup, like I mixed all this up and I'm not worried about it drying right now, just because it's it's not going to dry that fast. Now I probably wouldn't scrape the edges around any more than I already have once I get to any of these other colors, because that thinner areas might start drying and you don't want to get those, like, the only way I've ever been able to describe it is like a paint booger. It's a paint booger. You don't want to kind of scrape that off and get a paint booger in there, but do I have, oh, here we go. Pipettes. Now this is the other thing in our kit here, which I do love. And I just essentially stick it in there, squeeze it, and watch it just go up the little pipette. Yes, we have a question?
Patty asks if one of your cups is a little streaky, will the medium dry white or clear?
Oh, if you don't mix it perfectly?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the medium comes out milky white. When you mix it in with the paint, it kind of dilutes it, the color. So you're making it almost like a transparent color. It's not 100% transparent, but just be aware that if you have a transparent color that you mix into this medium, it's going to become more transparent. So anytime you don't have those fully incorporated, anytime where you see like a streak of white, it is going to dry more clear and more transparent than like the part that has more paint in it. I hope that makes sense. So yes, it would be streaky, but if you have paint on paint on paint, like we're going to, it might be cool, but it's also going to be moving around and I don't think you're really going to notice it that much. Again, this is like a foolproof medium, why I love it so much.
And are you adding medium to all your colors?
All of them, yes. Every single one on here is the paint, just like I showed you with the turquoise color that I have here. That's exactly how I mixed all of these up. Now the white, because it is a full cup, as well as my green over here, those two are full cups, and you'll see here why in just a second. Those I put about 200 milliliters of medium in, which is up to about here. And then the rest of this I filled with paint. So the really cool thing though is because I'm going to be working on the edge. This is an 18 by 18 and it is a 1/2 inch deep, so it'll be nice and it's a nice edge of a canvas to where I don't have to actually frame it if I don't want to. But because I am starting off with the white as my base layer, if it's not perfectly laid down or anything, it's already a white canvas. Who's gonna know? How would they know? All right, so I'm gonna try and keep this here. Once I start working on this, I can't move it. And I'm also going to more or less destroy this tablecloth that I'm working on. So be aware, before you start, whatever is underneath it is going to get paint on it. And I mean, like, you're going to get paint on it, like layers upon layers of paint. Yes.
If you're using a smaller canvas, it's pretty common for people to use the aluminum
Trays. Yes.
For baking.
Yes, just be aware that the paint is going to come off the sides. That's part of the pour painting, you know, kind of medium. It's going to drip. And actually the cool thing is that when it does drip, you get these really cool kind of fun stripy colors. I'm gonna try and turn this as best as I can. Here we go. Yeah, so you get really fun edges like that. So what's great is that you don't have to frame this, but if you want to frame this, you can. Now, since we have this great view here, you guys can see this a little bit more up close. So this is really thick. Like, if I touch the back of this, it is thick, which is why this is taking about 2 days to dry. We put a lot of paint on here. Now you will also notice that I have some kind of more three-dimensional aspects in there, which if I turn this completely sideways, yeah, you guys can see it a little bit better. That is also acrylic paint, and I will show you guys how to get these little fun, you know, little blobs of paint. But that is separate. Now, here, this is the one with the Lucas medium that I wanted to show you, and my rag is attaching to the three-dimensional parts. Now this is actually really fun, and I wanted to show you because if you see these right here, this is all my acrylic paint that fell off my canvas previously. Like I just showed you a blob of paint that I had on my tablecloth here, like it had run off kind of a thing. I peeled it off. And what's actually fun is that you can actually feel the tablecloth like texture. because it's a cloth. But this right here, I actually cut into kind of leaf shapes, and then while this was still wet, squished it in. So these aren't going anywhere. They are completely fused on, like even the ones that are hanging off the side, like I can move it around, but it's not coming off. Like it is fused in there, you know? Same thing with this one. It's also a little bit wobbly. But this one you can also see, there you go. If I get that glare on there just right, you can see my hand marks right there where it didn't self-level. Again, it's one of those things that it still gave me a beautiful image, and it's a great, you know, medium. It's just, it works a little differently than the golden. So, but you can still also, with the cut scraps of paint, because no paint left behind, let's be honest, you can also do this with the golden or any other acrylic medium. It just, acrylic wants to fuse with acrylic. That's why anytime you have an acrylic and you stick them together, there's a likelihood that your paintings are going to stick. And I'm really attaching this rag to things. It just does not want to let go. All right, so the last thing I wanted to show you before I officially start on this is how I'm going to prop it up. These are just push pins in each corner. I don't know, it's hard to see. Here, maybe if we go to the other side view. There we go. Yeah, you guys can see. Just push pins. I tend to put them in between the corners here. It's not enough to really like move your stretcher bars at all, really. But that's just kind of the path of least resistance, so I just push it in there. Now, I will say for anybody attempting to do this, just to, you know, it puts your canvas up just off the table. So it has just enough clearance. It's nice and easy, and you know, I have a ton of push pins. But if you do have like arthritis of your hands or anything where it's harder for you to push those in, one trick that I have found is getting something like, do I not have a palette knife up here? I don't have a palette knife, sorry. I have the backside of a palette knife is usually what I use to just push it. Yeah, there it is. I was cleaning it. That's right, because I was playing with paint earlier. So this right here, the wooden part, it's a solid piece of wood, right? And I usually just take it with my hand and just push the push pin down with that instead of using like my thumb or something, because I mean it is wood. There's not a whole lot of resistance because it is going into the crack between those two. But if you do have you know, hand issues where that's going to hurt you, just use a tool, just something that's nice and flat. It'll give you enough rigidity to push it in, and then to pull it out, all you have to do is just pull it, you know. Again, it's one of those things that if you need to, grab some pliers and pull it straight up. It should be fine. I think that one is not all the way in. The other thing is that you do want to make sure, I always push them all the way in. That way they're the exact same push pin. I know that they're level. My table is hopefully level-ish. It's probably not 100% level. The other thing I have on hand are my Soho wipes because I'm going to make a mess. But we need to get started painting because this is going to be a fun process, even though it does go by relatively quick. So, like I said, I'm going to be starting off with white. Now the whole thing I'm going to do is just coat everything in white. So I made 3 cups for my 18 by 18 canvas. I hope that's enough. If it's not, I can make more. And if it's too much, I can also save a little bit of the paint to make some flowers, right? All right. I think 3 cups is going to be too much. Now, the reason why I am using the Lucas acrylics is because they are AP certified non-toxic. And so I can do this. Frida, I don't know if you just heard that. Frida just almost died a little on the inside. She did not expect me to put my hand in paint. Yeah, that's...
I also have a 6 and a 9-year-old at home, so...
So she's having a little...
PTSD.
All right, so for those moms out there who's just not wanting your children to do this, this is the process to do it. And just do it outside in clothes that they don't care about because this is going to get everywhere. And also, that's why I have a rag on me that I've been kind of dropping everywhere. I knew I was going to do this, and I knew I'm going to make a mess, so that's why I have a rag. I'm also, if you don't want to do this with your hand, wear a rag. Or not a rag, wow. I can speak, I swear. Wear a glove. You can do this with gloves on. It won't get on your hands. You'll be fine. The reason why I like to do this with my hands is because I can kind of feel the level of paint that's on there, and I can get it relatively even, and then I have it on my hand, and so I can just touch the edges, and that'll also bring a little bit of paint just so that, like on the edges where that one had kind of spilled off and had those streaks. This is how you get those streaks really nicely. The one thing I will say, and I did notice on a couple of them, because I move a little quick, is that if you get bubbles, you want to pop them. And that's the reason why is because you're going to end up with like little craters. But if you do have bubbles that stay on the surface and they dry and you can see the bubble, just fill it in with more paint. You can always use a pipette later on and just fill it in.
Emmy,
Yes.
can you use surfaces other than canvas for this?
Yeah. Why not?
What do you suggest?
Whatever makes you happy. You can use, I would say the Da Vinci panels would be great. Like the birch panels would be great. I don't know.
Well, especially if you're going to use like a lot of pastos paint on top of it, I would think you would want something with a little more rigidity.
That is the one thing, yeah, is that's going to add weight to it. So because I am coating the entire canvas in like a solid layer of paint, sorry, while I'm doing that, I'm going to also fix my hand. High fives, anybody?
No.
Camera high five. There we go. Boop. Christina is about to die now. I would say you want something with a little bit of rigidity just because it's going to start getting a lot of weight on there. But as you can see, I did it with canvas and it's not sagging. It's not having any kind of an issue at all. But a Da Vinci panel would be great just because that is a solid structure. With a thin canvas panel, that would also work. But with that, you might want to watch out just because of the kind of the core of a canvas panel tends to be, it isn't cardboard because it's archival and it's, you know, a little bit sturdier, but I always think of it as like an equivalent to cardboard. Like it's got a paper to it, so it kind of just wants to bend sometimes, especially with the amount of paint we are putting on. So that would be something that you might want to just watch out on a little bit.
If you wanted to do it on wood, would you need to prep it first?
No, I would say probably not because the acrylic's going to seal your wood anyway. The only thing, like if you use wood that's not like something that's created like a Da Vinci birch panel, those are raw birch. So that should be fine because I've done pour paintings on those before and I've not prepped it and it's totally fine. If you're just getting wood from a hardware store, that's where it again can bow a little bit on you because it's not kiln dried, and it's not meant for art, so it's not prepared the same way, and it might have a little bit more bend to it with the amount of wet paint we're about to put onto it, I guess is a best way to put it. But even if you have like an acrylic panel, that would be really fun. If you had a clear acrylic or even acrylic that had a really fun color, you could do it on the Alumicomp panels, which are metal. And if you wanted to, you also wouldn't even have to coat the whole thing in white. You could maybe do like a fun half and half, have it string up. You know, the sky's the limit. This is, again, I just want to inspire you for this whole experimental process. And
what about tiles, like terracotta tiles?
Terracotta tiles might be a little bit better because it's porous and it'll grab onto the acrylic. Tiles that have been glazed might be a bit of a problem because that glazed surface is now fused glass. That's what glaze is. When you introduce it to the kiln and the heat process, it chemically changes it to be essentially a layer of glass on your ceramics. So that is probably going to be a little too slick for your acrylic to actually properly adhere to. So depends on the tile, I guess is the way to explain that. So let's get back to the painting. All right, so I have my full cup of green, and the reason why is because I want a big kind of wild floral mess. So I'm going to start off with my popsicle stick and just kind of get green on it. If you want to, you can also do big swipes, and I'm about to drop my paint. Don't fall. Do almost like it's like little leaves, and if I wanted to, I also have been doing this and just kind of pushing it up using the side of it. And if I get a little bit of white paint into my green, I'm okay with that too.
While you're doing that, Judith says, when I have done a pour painting on canvas, I've had trouble sometimes with the canvas buckling. How could I keep that from happening?
Your canvas buckles?
Like, I'm not sure if
In the
it's
sense
that-
of like it gets wavy? If you can answer that question, that'll help me
Okay.
a bit more. Because I've had like canvas that's not mounted can have that issue because it doesn't have that rigid structure. So like if it's like a canvas pad, that might be one of those things. But if your canvas is moving on you in a way that it's not meant to, that would be something that it's hard to say just because I'd have to see it, you know?
I wonder if stretcher keys or if the humidity of where they're being stored might have.
She
That was
said
the
it
other
gets
thing.
wavy and it sags.
Okay, so that means that you have a lot of weight on your canvas and you need to key out your canvas. So what I mean by that, and let me actually grab a smaller one here. All right, so, and I gotta make sure I don't touch this to the canvas that I have underneath. This right here is the little area where you have these little like almost grooves notched in. And most canvases come with wooden keys with it. And if you pop the keys into each corner, that should take this corner of your stretcher bar. Sorry, let me pull it on. It's hard to hold this straight up. It should pull the corners of your stretcher bars apart just a little. Now, the edge canvases that I'm working on here have some staples. I honestly would remove those to get it moving a little bit more. But that just means that your canvas it doesn't have enough kind of structure pulling it tight. So we need to kick these corners out just a little bit, and that'll pull your canvas stretcher bars out enough to make your canvas tight again. Now, if you work on the edge canvases, I can say you're not going to have that problem because they are very structurally sound. Like they're really, really awesome. The other thing that you might find is that will happen more with canvases that are on the cheaper side, just because they're not as stretched as some of the other ones. So I'm just making a big old mess. It's okay. The idea is wildflowers have kind of, grassy kind of foliage at the bottom, but they're wild. Like I want it to have that movement, that craziness, but I don't want to forget my edges. So I'm using my pipette just to kind of pipe some of that green down. Just along the edge. Sorry, my pipette burped a little in the cup. I'm also trying to make sure, because I think the cup is dripping a little. I'm holding it over the table so I don't get it on my toes. All right. So with that, That's more like the foliage. And I'm going to try not to forget about the sides here as well, where that would make sense. All right, so there's a good amount of green down here, and it's all kind of puddling up and pooling down at the bottom. But now is the fun part. So let's make some big, fun, kind of almost like rose flower kind of situations. Now, anything you lay down first is going to be pushed out. Just keep that in mind, right? If you see a bubble, pop it. Let me also just double check because I saw a bubble over here and I think I got it. Yeah, there's one right here. The little bubbles I think are fine because as your acrylic dries it kind of contracts a little bit. But I'm just going to make almost like flower shapes where I'm just kind of almost like the ones that I was, you draw as like a little girl and you're like, this is my flowers. And honestly, I still draw them as a professional artist. So if that's what your flowers look like, no shade because it's beautiful and I love it. But what I am doing, as you can see, is I'm putting a lot of the red kind of right in the core of that flower, right? And so I'm going to do, so you see how if you actually, hopefully you can see this. Let's see if we can go to that side camera view. You might be able to see this. Yeah, so you can see this starting to drip off the side here. I absolutely love how that looks. I think it looks so great. So if I am more focused on how I'm drawing the flower and not worried about the fact that it's going over the edge, that makes sense and it's okay. So I'm just layering the colors. I'm not even trying to make it perfect where I'm drawing over my lines perfectly, but anything on the underneath the paint that I'm laying down right now is being pushed out. And you will see that more when I get to the next kind of flower, which is really fun.
Devandy on YouTube, Derek mentions that you can hit the bubbles with a hairdryer to pop them if you've got a lot of them.
You can. That is a very good thing to do. Just make sure you don't put your hairdryer on high, because then you're gonna be.
Tidal wave.
Yeah, your paint's gonna move. Remember, this is pretty fluid paint, right? It's gonna move on you. All right, so let's do the purple. So I'm gonna do. Oh no, I got splatters, and it's okay because it's wildflowers. I'm gonna do.
At what point would you go around and trim some of the drippies off the bottom of the canvas if you were going to do that?
When it's dry. I would just let it drip off and let it dry. I'm not too worried about the edges. Now, and I can show you what that looks like once I'm done here. I don't remember what these flowers are called that have like all the little flowers that go up.
It's like lavender.
Is it lavender?
It looks like lavender.
But as a rule,
Wisteria?
well, wisteria falls down because it's a climbing
That
vine.
looks like it does.
It does. But that's also what I did in this big painting here, only I did it in yellow. The what?
Bluebells?
Bluebells, I think, are the ones I was thinking of. Yeah. So you can see I did the same process here. I just applied, since it's a larger painting, I applied more of the color and in yellow. I also decided that I didn't like the yellow because it reminds me a little bit of corn.
Oh.
You can't unsee it now, can you? Just a couple of corn cobs amongst the wildflowers, it's fine. But now comes the fun part where you layer it. And if I try to make sure that the blue goes exactly where that purple was, see how it's just kind of pushing that color out, which is really fun.
Emmy, if you were to use painter's tape to try to mark off areas with this, would that work?
your painter's tape is going to be buried.
It's gonna be glued under there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're never going to know you had tape. That tape is going to be deep into all this. Like, I'm pretty sure this paint here, since we are on the side view, let's see if I can find one that's like a good example. Here we go. All right. So, right, this is the paint, and this is about how thick it is on the canvas. So if I take this, and by the way, cutting it with scissors is just the easiest thing ever.
It's like butter.
Yeah, it's very satisfying. But like, do you see how thick that paint is? Hopefully you can. Like it's pretty thick. And that's just what fell off the canvas. So what's on the canvas is, it's that thickness, if not thicker.
Also, do you need to seal this when it's all dry?
No, unless you really want to. You don't have to. The only time that might be a thing that you would really want to do. Don't fall. Sorry, I just knocked over a paint tube and it almost made a cup fall over. Whew. Sorry, I had a feeling this is gonna just be one of those episodes that I just make things fall over. What was I talking about? I'm sorry.
Sealing it.
Sealing it, yes. All right, so acrylic you really don't have to. The only time that might be something that you would really want to address is if you have paints that have different finishes. And so when you mix it into the medium, if you have a matte paint with the gloss, it might feel a little bit more satin, because remember, you're also using a lot more of this medium, but it still can have an effect. So if you find that you have surface issues that you're just not crazy about, that would be the only reason why I would actually seal this, but it's pretty good. Like, you shouldn't have to varnish this up. Also, unless it is going to be sitting in a very sunshiny window and you want to protect it UV protection wise. That's always good. Now, the next flower, how are we doing on time? Because I have one more flower that I want to show you guys, and it's really fun.
22 minutes left.
Oh, perfect. I have plenty of time.
So you said it takes like 2 full days at least to dry.
Yeah.
And so then you don't want to move it at all for 2 days, right?
Not unless you have a need to make paint go everywhere. If you really want to try and move it, bless your endeavors, because that's just gonna be a mess. Yeah, good luck. Oh, that's not what I meant to do, but that's all right. Oh well, it's okay. So I'm gonna do some of this fluorescent pink because I really love this color, especially against the green. Oh, and by the way, all of the colors that I'm using titanium white. I have this lemon yellow primary, Indian yellow, which is a little bit more of the orangey yellow. This is the fluorescent pink. I have rose, which is this light pink. It's so lovely. Carmine is the darker red. The permanent violet is the purple. The bluish color is turquoise, and then the green is, I believe, olive green. Yes. So it's got a little bit more of like an earthy tone to it. I've also used in this big one, I think I had fluorescent green as well as a little bit of a phthalo in there. This is where we're making a mess comes into the process. Because it's wildflowers, remember? They don't grow in organized bunches. But now that I have these really fun dots, I'm going to select a couple and make them bigger. I keep putting bubbles in. And I think Amanda has hiccups.
This one.
All right. Let's make another one here. All right. We'll do another one here. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of this lighter pink. This is rose. Right in the center. Pop. Ooh, that's fun. I actually like how that looks. Don't have to do the exact same thing to all of them. But my rule is generally, if I have it in at least 3 places, it looks intentional. If I make a boo-boo, I make it look like it was an intentional boo-boo, and I totally meant to do that. And I make it happen somewhere else. And got a little bit more of this, because I want a little bit more splatters. Oh, and the other thing I've done is just a little bit here and there. I was like, maybe it's just little bunches of flowers. I don't know. But if we layer, and this is that Indian yellow, so it's got a nice, like, almost oranginess to it. You have a question?
Suzanne would like to know, does it matter if the acrylic paint is heavy body or not?
Ooh, thank you for asking that, because I meant to say that. I meant to talk about that and totally forgot. So I've done this process with a fluid paint and I've done it with a heavy body paint. The paint that I'm currently using is actually a soft body. So with everything that I've done, I have not really had any difference in being able to get my shapes more or less retain what they're doing. I've had it all kind of work out the same way. So no, it should not matter whether or not you use a heavy body, a soft body, or a fluid paint. Now just keep in mind, using a fluid paint is going to get you probably a little bit more fluidity. You know, that's going to happen. But in the sense of being able to do this, you should be fine. Not a problem.
So are you just dropping from above with the pipette, or are you ever like touching the paint when you're putting it in?
Like here, if you go to the side camera right here, like this is about as close as I get if I'm trying to like this right here. When I was drawing those lines, that's about as far as I was. Now if I'm dropping little dots, I'm up here. Just because, and that's a very good question, the reason why I pull my hand up when I'm trying to do just little dots that are like crazy and all over the place, like I have here, like almost like a splatter. The reason why is because if I pull my hand up, the dots have time as they release from the pipette. Like here, if I'm, let's go to the forward view. If I'm releasing drops of the paint, it has more time to hit the paint or hit the panel before I move my hand in a fluid motion. Now, the closer I am, the more you're gonna get those like almost like lines. But I'm also very glad you said that because I have some fun things. These are the FX color shifters. These are rubber tipped. They look like brushes, but they have the tip of them is rubber. Now, this is a fun thing that you can do. Now let me get a rag ready. Now let's go to that side view because I'll do that with the like dots where I laid down a bunch of color. Let's start with, I wish there wasn't as much of a glare. Let's start with this one because you guys can really see it. Let's also get rid of that bubble. Okay, so if I take this and pull it in to the center, I have to wipe off on a rag every time. And then it almost looks like flower petals, which is super cute. The other thing I've done before is also just swirled it because I have no patience. That also works. Yes, you have a question?
Also, Me wants to know, can you use a toothpick?
Yeah, of course you can use a toothpick. You can use anything you can get your hands on. Whether or not you are gonna put something in here, like if you use like a hair comb, that would probably look really cool. But just be aware that you're not going to be able to use that as a hair comb.
You've sacrificed
Probably.
it to the arts.
Yes, it is now sacrificed to the process. You have another question?
I've got several questions about the body of the paint. So
Yeah.
first off, the bottles and the tubes that you have there are all Lucas Krill Studio. They are
Yes.
soft body paint, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Next is heavy acrylic. Heavy body acrylic is not recommended.
You can
with
use
the
it.
with the pouring medium.
No, you can use it. Just be aware that a heavy body acrylic is going to give your pouring painting, this paint that you're working with, a little bit more body. But remember, you're not actually using that much paint to the medium. So it's still going to have a nice fluid kind of consistency, even if you use the heavy body. Just be aware that it's probably going to take you a little bit longer to incorporate it into your pouring medium. Like stirring it wise, you're probably going to be there for maybe 2 minutes per cup instead of like 5 seconds, you know? The thicker your paint, the longer it takes you to really get it poured in there. Or like incorporated, I guess is a better way of saying it. And I know you have more questions. But I also know she's responding to people, so.
I think that covers it. Karen does want you to do the 3D flowers, though.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely going in. But the 3D flowers do not go in towards the end. Well, they don't go in until I get to the end, because you'll see why. And I'm also going to show you how to make the little 3D flowers too, so don't you worry about that. Now, the reason why I am wiping off this tool every time I go back into the paint is because if I didn't, that like pink kind of orangey yellow color that is now on the tip of this, I keep wanting to call it a color spatcher or something weird like that, a color shifter. This right here, the reason why I have to wipe it off is because if I don't, I'm now incorporating that color over here and pulling it in. So it's going to look almost like it has like a little hair sticking off. Now again, if that's something you want to play with, absolutely go for it. Now let me get the last of these in here. And I will show you guys how to do the 3-dimensional flowers, because those are super fun. Oh, I got 2 more. 2 more up here. So if you do have questions, now is a great time to pop them in the chat, because I just have these 2 flowers to go, and then I will continue along with the process. I hope this is inspiring you guys to go make a big old mess. This is so much fun. And you guys know, if you've been watching the show, I'm illustration background, so my brain always wants to make sense of like a big mess. So this is a big mess of happy for me. Yes.
Are the color shifters only for acrylic? Ralph would like to know.
Ooh, no. Color shifters can be used in oils. Absolutely. Now that I have all my flowers in a fun kind of crazy way, I want to do 3-dimensional flowers. Now, this right here is a big jar of what we call here in the studio paint poops. The reason why is because they kind of look like the poop emoji. Like, I can't even, it's just so perfect. Like, they're just little blobs of paint, right? That's all it is. I have some that have a little bit more texture to them. Let me find another one.
Show
Here.
the side camera.
Yeah, there we go. All right, so this is just random blobs of acrylic, right? I have it in all different colors of blue. Sorry, I know that's way out of focus. I also try not to touch this. So let me grab a couple here. All right, so I have it in various shades of blue. I have different sizes, and the way that I did this, just laid these all out here, is by And this is actually, I believe, Payne's Gray, so it's real dark. It almost looks black, but that is actually a dark blue. That is, I believe, an ultramarine, so it's a little bit more blue. But these were the Lucas Pastos, which is an impasto painting acrylic. So it has a lot of body, and as it dries, it retains all of its little shapes. So what I do is I pipe those out with a piping bag, like I am making a cake, onto a palette, and then I let them fully dry, and then I can just plop them in. Yes.
So Bonnie asked if you made the painting in your mind or if you were using a photo as a reference. Now I know you didn't use a photo reference, but did you plan things out in your mind ahead of time?
Nope. No plan. There was not a plan at all. Now I will say, did you guys see how many of these I have made? I've made quite a few. So I didn't really need a plan because I wanted to show you more or less kind of exactly what I've done before now. So you guys could, be able to understand how I got here. So I've done this, probably 5 or 6 times now, so I didn't really need a plan. I kind of knew the shapes of flowers. Now the only thing I did use as a reference when I did first start this big one, because this was my first one, I did use photo references of Wildflowers because I wanted it to have that kind of crazy wild energy, and I wanted it to look similar in shape to certain wildflowers. But this is one of those things where I personally did not have a plan, and this process is great for me because I get so tight in the rendering of my painting sometimes that it is really hard for me to kind of let loose and let go, and kind of just this is definitely more of a play with the process. If you want to have an idea in mind where you want to place certain flowers, yes, absolutely, you can do that. But I did not have that plan. But now I also do need, one plan I do have now is that I need a jar of dried impasto acrylic blobs in every color. So this is my blue jar. I need a red jar and a purple jar and a yellow jar. All of them. So don't mind me, I'll just be sitting here piping out paint all day. So what I was doing with these is that I was trying to keep the darker ones towards the bottom and then kind of let it go up from there. But not gonna lie, I don't have a whole lot of the lighter color anymore because I've used them in these other ones here. I had a light blue that was really pretty. I might be able to find one more in here. There we go. There is one.
So when are you going to do a nighttime counterpart to this painting?
I was actually thinking about that not that long ago. I have not figured that out, and I really want to do that. Again, this is an experimental process that I have just started playing with, and I hope you guys get to start playing with it too. But this one, this is the light blue that I had, and I was putting these up at the top, kind of almost like little Queen's Anne lace, where it's kind of little clusters here and there, which is really fun. Here, I'll just plop that in there. Why not? They were also a lot smaller than the other ones down here. Now, the other thing that I have been doing, because now that I've stuck them into acrylic, remember, there's a lot of acrylic in there. It's going to fuse. It is not going to come out whatsoever. But the other thing that I was doing is taking some of the lighter shades or other colors and just kind of dropping it on top. And the ones, I found that the ones that have more texture are super fun because the paint is so fluid that it wants to kind of go throughout those. Here, let me try to do one of these other ones that are a little closer to the camera to where you can see. It wants to go into those grooves. And so on the peaks where they are, like this one right here, you can see the peaks get a lot darker, and then the paint grooves are now filled in with this fluid acrylic. And it's just like almost like glazing with what's that icing that's like
Royal
pretty much just powdered sugar. Yeah, royal icing. It's almost like glazing with royal icing. Now I know we have a question.
How do you know if there's enough acrylic on your substrate to stick the little paint poops on there without them falling off?
If you are laying down a good amount of paint, like it's gonna stick. Like if you put it in there and then it doesn't have any like,
Smush.
I feel like you're gonna know. Like you'll feel it. Like even the ones that here on the edge, there's a little bit less, like even that less amount of acrylic, like I can see it almost like bubble up around it as I put it in. Now the ones up here where the canvas is like a little bit lower, because I know my canvas is doing that because of how much paint I have on here, that is actually going to have more paint around it. And what's funny, and I realized this as this was drying, and I wish I could show you guys, especially right here where the little paint poops are, it almost looks like the paint dried and like went down, but then it remained almost like a little bubble, like a little mountain around the little paint blobs. So
Also, it probably helps if you're putting paint over it to hold it to it too.
yeah, that also kind of fuses it down, but not necessary because I've done that with a couple of these and it's totally fine. The same thing with the if you decide that you want to cut little leaf shapes or what, even flower shapes out of these, the paint that's been puddled up on the edge or the edges, that is, as soon as you put it down into the paint, it's going to grab it. Not a problem. Now, I wanted to show you how to do the impasto painting blobs. Now, I'm going to have to get some of this out of the way just because I can't move this. So I'm going to have to do it right here. And it's not too terribly much. I just am trying not to put my hair into paint cups and also not get it spilt.
While you're doing that, when it's dried completely, if you wanted to add some extra texture, could you go back over it with like some gouache paints or anything like that?
Yeah, 100%, yes. You can put, well, gouache is a little tricky because that's technically opaque watercolor, but it might have enough kind of tooth to grab onto it. Let me actually pop these over
But the
there.
acrylic gouaches would work.
The acrylic gouache, yes, that would be fine, I believe. It's just that this surface gets so slick. Let me actually, I don't know if you guys can see this, like, it's pretty, like, glossy. And that glossiness is not great for other things to really grab onto. Now, acrylics will definitely want to stick to acrylics, so not a problem whatsoever. Acrylics, you can absolutely put more on top of this, not a problem. Even if you wanted to pipe more flowers on top of these, instead of doing the little paints squished in, you could pipe more on top of here. But like here, you can see that like there's my little blobs, and then this right here is the two different colors, and then I actually just dotted color around it. But multiple layers of the reds to make it appear like it's roses. Like, we have options. It's a lot of fun. So this right here, everyone thinks that this looks like a little sausage. It does look like a little sausage. This is the paint within. I actually just took the Lucas Pastos and just squirted it out in a couple different lines. I have titanium white, permanent rose, and mauve. Now I actually squirted this out into 3 different lines onto my, this is actually plastic wrap. So, just like you would with icing a cake, I have grabbed a tip and a piping bag. Now,
which you now cannot use for baking ever again.
oh yeah, don't, once you sacrifice this to the painting gods, like this is just now part of your painting arsenal. You cannot make food with this. I know that because I wrote acrylics on it. In case you have a reusable one, label. I also have one for oil paints, fun fact. That is also really, really fun because you know oil paints don't dry very fast, right? Yeah, I had to figure out how to make that concoction. If you guys are interested in impasto painting with oils and figuring out how to make those dry faster, let me know. All right, so I'm gonna actually just take, what I did was I rolled this up. Wow, I got paint on my hand. Excuse me. This is why I wear an apron. I just roll this up and now I'm taking the ends and I'm twisting them in opposite directions to where it looks like a little sausage casing. And then I'm just gonna snip one end off pretty close to the end. Again, scissors are for arting now. You cannot use that for food. Now, carefully, without squeezing a bunch of paint out, I'm going to stick this into my piping bag. And unfortunately, I don't think you're gonna be able to get a very great view of the side of this, but.
This is a live look into me frosting cupcakes as well.
Yes. So I have it all the way at the end there, and then I'm gonna start squeezing it from the back side of that little sausage casing, just to where that paint's gonna start coming out of the tip, just like that. Boop, right? And then I'm just gonna start piping out little flowers. Here, hold. Maybe I can, haha. We're gonna try and figure out a way to get you guys a better view of this here. If I pull this back, can you get a view of that?
I can zoom in.
Yes. I can also go over here. Well, that came with it. It's okay. There is no wrong paint poop. I probably should figure out a different name for that.
No.
Listen, if the poop emoji wasn't so cute and so much like this. There we go. All right, so there's a couple of different ways that I've done this, and probably look up cake frosting because that's probably way better than anything I can do. I am not a baker. I don't frost cakes all day. I paint. But I have found.
And if you're using heavy body paints, there are a bunch of different types
There we
of
go.
tips you can use for the frosting bags to give
Yes.
different looks.
Now I will say this reusable frosting bag came with an entire array of different tips, but the little blue spots, oh, that kind of came up. That's okay. I'll still use it. That one's just going to be extra. I can also make some bigger ones. Like I'm gonna have some flowers. Let it go. The acrylic does not like to let go. But that's how I made the little three-dimensional flowers. It's okay.
Also, if you start in the middle and then go out, it looks like a rose.
It does.
It's my favorite way to frost cupcakes.
Look at that. It's so cute. And it's heavy body, so this is going to probably dry faster than that would, to be honest. I think these, especially the larger ones, might take a full day and a half. The smaller ones probably dry within a day. But the cool thing is because I'm using this on a reusable paper palette, they will literally pop right off of there. It's the coolest thing ever. Now, I have a ton of cups of the pour painting acrylics left over. Don't worry, not gonna waste that either. Let me get the last of this paint out. Because I need a purple jar. This is the beginning of my purple jar, guys. Did you think I was joking about that? Because I was, yeah. Everyone here just shook their head vigorously no. They know me so well. All right, let's do one last big one. Let it go. There we go. Haha. Paint poops. They're so cute. All right, so I'm gonna let these dry, and then I'll just pop them right off. And then I'll be able to just squish them onto my next couple of paintings, and I'm gonna continue doing these. So with the cups that I have left over, where again, I told you I did not need that much. I painted this whole 18 by 18 canvas, and the one I used the most was white. The white and green, and I barely touched the rest of these colors. Now, what's great is that if you do a series of these, you can do a bunch of these at a time, or you can do an entire party, which is so much fun. Again, maybe do it outside. But the other thing is that I'm going to also just pour these out, because waste not, want not, and then I will turn them into essentially acrylic skins that I can now collage with, which I'm very excited about. So last minute, any more questions that we have?
No, everyone is very excited.
I'm so excited. I am so excited for you guys to play with this process. It is so much fun. The possibilities are endless. I was doing wildflowers. You could do koi fish. You could do butterflies. You can do all kinds of fun things. You know, I just wanted to show you the technique in this manner, and you can now take it and run. And so I hope you guys get to play with this. And if you do, make sure you tag us. And whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media that you're on, tag JerrysArtarama and make sure you tag the class code, which is JL254. So hashtag JL254, so that way we can find it and appreciate all the art that you're about to make. So I hope you get to do this because it's so much fun. Also, just, yeah, make sure you're aware you're going to make a mess. I have paint everywhere. On that note, make sure you guys join me next week because I'm going to actually be doing something that's really, really fun. I'm going to be doing gilded designs with gold leaf on top of acrylics, which is super fun. Same process if you're going to be doing it with oils, but you know, if you're interested in gold leafing and doing all kinds of like gilded, really, really fun. I'm so excited. So make sure you catch me next week and I will see you guys then. Thank you so much. Bye.